Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. President Obama's unveiled his plan to shield millions of undocumented immigrants from deportation in the face of congressional inaction. Some 4 million people could be eligible for the new policy, which allows the undocumented parents of U.S. citizens and legal permanent residents to stay in the country with work permits if they've lived in the country for at least 5 years and pass a background check.
So we're going to offer the following deal. If you've been in America for more than 5 years, if you have children who are American citizens or legal residents, if you register, pass a criminal background check, and you're willing to pay your fair share of taxes, you'll be able to apply to stay in this country temporarily without fear of deportation.
The new plan will not provide relief to the parents of undocumented children, even those who qualified for deferred action in 2012. It also ends the controversial Secure Communities program, which swept up immigrants with minor offenses such as traffic tickets. The newly created Priority Enforcement Program will carry out a similar role. We'll have more on President Obama's historic executive action on immigration after headlines. Tens of thousands of people have rallied in Mexico in a day of action over the apparent massacre of 43 students by police and a drug gang in the southern state of Guerrero. These students from Ayotzinapa Teachers College have been missing for nearly 2 months after they were ambushed by police. On Thursday, a massive crowd turned out in Mexico City calling for action against government corruption and the resignation of President Enrique Peña Nieto. The United Nations says violence in eastern Ukraine is worsening despite a more than 2-month-old ceasefire. An average of 13 people a day have been killed since the Ukrainian government reached a truce with separatist rebels in early September. More than 4,300 people have been killed and nearly 500,000 internally displaced since fighting erupted in April. Speaking in Geneva, UN official Gianni Magazzini said eastern Ukraine has seen a total breakdown in the rule of law.
Civilians continue to be killed, illegally detained, tortured. They are disappearing, and the number of internal displaced is growing, especially in the eastern part of Ukraine, where there is a total breakdown in the rule of law, and there is very little, if we can talk about protection, very little protection, if any at all. No procedural guarantees, no respect of international human rights norms.
The UN's warning comes as Vice President Joe Biden is in Kiev to announce a new increase in non-lethal military aid to the Ukrainian military. The U.S. will supply its first shipment of Humvee vehicles after ruling out weapons for now. Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko had asked for lethal military aid during a visit to Washington in September. The Obama administration is granting temporary protected status to travelers hailing from 3 West African countries worst hit by Ebola. Individuals from Liberia, Guinea, and Sierra Leone who are in the U.S. before today can apply for deportation protection and an 18-month work permit. The U.S. has released 5 prisoners from Guantanamo Bay, including the first Yemeni prisoner to be resettled in 4 years. 3 of the prisoners have been sent to Georgia and the other 2 to Slovakia. The move reduces the Guantanamo prison population to 143, the majority already cleared for release, many cleared for more than a decade. A Swedish court has rejected an appeal of the arrest warrant that's kept WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange confined in Ecuador's London embassy for over 2 years. Assange is wanted in Sweden for questioning on allegations of sexual misconduct, though no charges have been filed. He's voiced fears he would ultimately be sent for prosecution in the United States if he were returned to Sweden over his involvement with WikiLeaks. Assange's attorneys have petitioned for the warrant to be withdrawn, arguing it cannot be enforced while Assange is in the embassy and Swedish prosecutors refuse to question him in London. But on Thursday, the Swedish appeals court rejected Assange's challenge to a ruling against him earlier this year. In a statement, the court said it factored in that Assange is a flight risk and that he's, quote, suspected of crimes of a relatively serious nature. But it also suggested prosecutors should consider questioning him in London, saying their refusal to do so, quote, is not in line with their obligation in the interest of everyone concerned to move the preliminary investigation forward, they said. LGBT couples in Montana and South Carolina have applied for marriage licenses for the first time after courts rejected their state's ban on marriage equality. The U.S. Supreme Court rejected a request to block LGBT marriage in South Carolina Thursday, one day after a federal judge overturned the state ban in Montana. Two couples in Montana and South Carolina spoke to reporters after requesting marriage licenses Thursday.
It represents equal rights, that every American's treated the same.
And we're not there. Yes, that we have equal rights, that we're not less than, that we can't be discriminated against legally, any other fashion.
Yeah, we definitely want our family and friends to be able to celebrate.
But we're the first couple in South Carolina, so awesome. We got to do it. That's awesome.
After the new rulings, marriage equality will be legalized in 35 U.S. states. The father of Michael Brown has issued an appeal for nonviolent protest in advance of the pending grand jury decision over his son's killing. An announcement could come any day on whether the Ferguson police officer who shot Michael Brown, Darren Wilson, will face criminal charges. In video statement, Michael Brown Sr. asked demonstrators to remain peaceful.
My family and I are hurting. Our whole region is hurting. I thank you for lifting your voices to end racial profiling and police intimidation. But hurting others or destroying property is not the answer. No matter what the grand jury decides, I do not want my son's death to be in vain. I want it to lead to incredible change, positive change, change that makes the St. Louis region better for everyone. We live here together. This is our home. We are stronger united.
As he faces potential charges, Officer Wilson is reportedly in talks with city officials to resign. Ferguson Police Chief Tom Jackson had recently suggested Wilson could return to active duty if he's not indicted. And a federal appeals court has upheld a lower court ruling ordering Louisiana to release Albert Woodfox, a former Black Panther who spent more than 40 years in solitary confinement. Albert Woodfox and the late Herman Wallace, another prisoner of the Angola Three, were convicted of murdering a guard at Angola prison. The Angola Three and their supporters say they were framed for their political activism. A federal judge ruled last year Woodfox should be set free on the basis of racial discrimination in his retrial. It was the third time Woodfox's conviction has been overturned, but prosecutors have negated the victories with a series of appeals. Thursday's ruling by the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals upheld the order for Woodfox's release in a unanimous 3-0 decision. But prosecutors could still delay its enforcement with more appeals to keep Woodfox behind bars. In a statement, the International Coalition to Free the Angola Three said, quote, "Though the courts have finally ruled in the interest of justice, it may still be months or years before this innocent man is released from his solitary cell." And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Juan Gonzalez. Welcome to all of our listeners and viewers around the country and around the world.